The rain tapped lightly against the roof as Jake leaned on the rusty gate, staring at his grandpa's garage. It looked ordinary from the outside, a typical suburban shed filled with old tools and shelves crowded with dusty boxes. But Jake knew better. The garage had always smelled like oil, metal, and something else. Something strange. Something alive with secrets. Grandpa had always been mysterious. He rarely spoke about his younger days. But sometimes, when he thought Jake wasn't listening, he'd mumble things about distant stars, strange machines, and adventures far from Earth. Jake never really understood what he meant. He was 16, more interested in video games and the local skateboard park than stories of space. Still, there was something about the garage that called to him. Grandpa said I shouldn't touch anything, Jake muttered to himself as he pushed the creaky door open. Inside, the garage was a maze of shelves, drawers, and workbenches. Old alien-looking gadgets blinked faintly in the dim light. Holographic star maps, barely dusted, shimmered in the corners. Strange tools he couldn't name hung on the walls. And right in the middle, on a worn wooden table, sat a big red button with a sign taped above it that read, "Do not press. Galactic Protocol." Jake laughed. Do not press? That's exactly what I'm supposed to do. His fingers itched with curiosity. Grandpa's voice called from the kitchen. Jake, don't go touching my projects. I'm not touching anything. Jake yelled back, though he slowly inched toward the red button. The rain outside picked up, and a small bolt of lightning illuminated the garage, reflecting off the metal tools and making the button shine even more. Without thinking, Jake pressed it. Nothing happened at first. Just a soft click. Then, a holographic star map exploded into life above the table. Stars twinkled, systems rotated. And suddenly, a small metallic sphere floated out from under the table. It hovered in front of Jake, blinking a curious blue light. Whoa, Jake whispered. He reached out, but the sphere zipped away with a tiny hum. Jake. Grandpa's voice was sharp now. He stormed into the garage, his eyes wide. What did you do? Ah! Jake pointed at the blinking sphere. I just pressed the button. Grandpa's face went pale. You pressed the wrong button, he said, almost in a whisper. That button. It's not just a button. It's a signal. A distress call. To the galaxy. Jake blinked. The galaxy? Yes, Grandpa said, running a hand through his gray hair. Do you have any idea what that means? He shook his head. No, of course you don't. That button is linked to the Intergalactic Treaty Enforcement Network. Pressing it tells every empire across the stars that Earth is potentially hostile. Jake's stomach dropped. Hostile? Me? I didn't do anything. Grandpa groaned. It doesn't matter. The signal doesn't know who pressed it. Only that it was sent. And now we wait and hope that no one decides to act first. Outside, the lights of the town flickered. A low hum filled the air, almost like the vibration of a distant engine. Jake looked at the sky, and for a moment, he thought he saw strange shapes moving above the clouds. I should have destroyed that button years ago, Grandpa muttered. I kept it safe, thinking no one would touch it. And now, his voice trailed off. Jake swallowed hard. What happens now? Grandpa sighed. We watch, and we prepare. Humanity has never faced something like this. The button. It can bring attention from civilizations far older, far stronger than us. They might see Earth as a threat, a target, or a curiosity. End quote. And, also of verse 7, Jake felt his heart pound. And we can't do anything? We can, Grandpa said. He walked over to a dusty shelf and pulled out a small, sleek device, unlike anything Jake had ever seen. This is a communication and tracking module. It can detect alien activity in near-Earth space. It's experimental, but it's all we have for now. Jake took it, feeling the weight of responsibility. So, what do we do? First, We monitor, Grandpa said. Then, we hope the worst doesn't happen. Hours passed. Jake stayed in the garage, eyes glued to the holographic map. The stars rotated, and distant planets blinked in and out of existence. He noticed tiny red dots appearing at the edges of the map, moving closer to Earth. Grandpa, what are those? Grandpa's face hardened. Alien fleets. They're responding to the signal. They don't know we're humans yet, but they are coming to check. We have hours, maybe less, to prepare. Jake's mind raced. He had never imagined that pressing a button in a garage could lead to this. The idea that alien warships could be approaching Earth because of him made his stomach twist. Can we stop them? Jake asked, trying to sound brave. Grandpa shook his head. Not with brute force. Not yet. We're not ready for that. But humans have something that others don't. Ingenuity. Creativity. Imagination. That's what we'll use. That's what's going to keep us alive. Jake looked at the red button again. It seemed harmless now, just sitting there on the table. But he knew better. That single press had changed everything. As the night deepened, lights in the sky flickered. Shadows moved across the garage walls. The small probe hovered closer to Jake, scanning. He held up his hand slowly, not sure what it expected. Then, a sound came from the device Grandpa had given him, a soft, rhythmic beep. It pulsed faster with each passing second. Jake realized with a sinking feeling that the fleets were not just coming, they were very close now. Grandpa clapped a hand on Jake's shoulder. Listen carefully, Jake. Humanity may not have weapons to match theirs, but we have something far stronger. We adapt. We think. We survive. That's our strength. And tonight, we'll see what that really means. Jake nodded, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. For the first time in his life, he understood that Earth was not just a small blue dot in space. It was a world that could be noticed, a world that could be threatened, and maybe, just maybe, a world that could fight back in ways the galaxy would never expect. Outside, the first alien ship appeared, a massive silhouette against the stormy clouds, glowing with strange lights, moving silently toward the planet. Jake held his breath. Grandpa grabbed his hand. Ready or not, it begins now. And with that, the garage seemed to shrink, the walls disappearing in Jake's mind. He was no longer just a kid in a quiet town. He was at the edge of something enormous, something that could change everything. The wrong button had been pressed. The galaxy had noticed. And a war, or maybe a chance for humanity to prove itself, was about to begin. The first alien ship hung above Earth like a ghost in the clouds. Its massive hull shimmered with strange lights, and its engines made a low hum that vibrated across the city. People in Jake's town ran into the streets, pointing at the sky in fear. The news broadcasts erupted with panic. Images of the unknown craft flashed on screens everywhere, and governments scrambled to respond. Jake and Grandpa stayed in the garage, surrounded by strange devices and blinking consoles. The small probe from the button floated nearby, scanning and recording everything. Grandpa adjusted the communication device, muttering numbers and symbols under his breath. They're not attacking yet, Grandpa said, eyes glued to the readings. They're trying to understand. They're cautious. But that doesn't mean they're friendly. Jake felt a shiver run down his spine. So, what do we do? We can't fight them. Right? Grandpa shook his head. Not directly. They're thousands of years ahead of us in technology. A human warship would be like a pebble hitting a mountain. But humans can do things they don't expect. That's our advantage. Jake frowned. Like what? Like thinking differently, adapting, using our brains when brute force fails. Grandpa pulled out a set of old, worn blueprints. Look at this. This is a ship built long before satellites or computers. It was meant for exploration, not war. But if we modify it, it could serve as a symbol, something to show them we are intelligent and maybe even clever enough to survive. Jake studied the blueprints. The design looked simple, almost fragile, but he could see potential. So, we're going to fly it into space? Grandpa nodded. Yes. You, me, and whoever we can trust. We need to make first contact in a way that doesn't trigger their weapons. By the next morning, a fleet of human spacecraft, hastily assembled and retrofitted from old satellites and military prototypes, orbited above Earth. The alien ships moved cautiously, scanning, probing, and occasionally firing non-lethal pulses at human craft. Each encounter caused panic and confusion, but also taught humanity something important. Alien technology, while advanced, could be understood and even outsmarted with quick thinking. Jake, suited up in a small pilot jumpsuit, stood in front of the prototype ship. Grandpa helped him strap in, adjusting the harness and checking every control panel. Remember, Jake, Grandpa said, your goal isn't to fight. It's to show them humans are clever. Use your mind, not your weapons. Jake nodded, swallowing hard. The engines roared as the ship lifted off, leaving Earth's atmosphere. Outside, the alien fleet waited. Massive silhouettes against the darkness of space, the first contact was about to happen. The aliens observed from their massive command ship. Their sensors detected the human vessel approaching. To them, it seemed small and fragile, a toy compared to the enormous warships in their fleet, but the ship moved confidently, precisely, and with a purpose that the aliens did not expect. Inside the prototype ship, Jake felt every vibration, every light, and every beep. Grandpa's device transmitted signals to the alien fleet, but instead of aggression, it carried mathematical sequences, simple patterns, and greetings in many languages. Jake hoped they would understand or at least interpret it as non-threatening. Suddenly, a pulse from the alien flagship lit up the dark space. It was a scan probing the ship, trying to detect weapons or hidden devices. Jake's heart raced. The ship shook, alarms blared, and the small screens showed warnings. Steady, Grandpa's voice echoed through the intercom. Don't panic, think. Jake took a deep breath. He remembered something Grandpa had said. Humans could solve problems, others could not. He quickly adjusted the ship's shields to create a reflective pattern that confused the alien scanners. The pulse bounced harmlessly off the ship, leaving the aliens momentarily puzzled. That worked? Jake asked, eyes wide. Grandpa nodded. For now, keep it moving. As they approached the alien flagship, Jake noticed something surprising. The ship wasn't firing. It was observing. Tentacles of energy probed the space around the human craft. Curious, cautious, and calculating. For the first time, Jake realized that the aliens were not just powerful, they were intelligent. Grandpa, they're watching us, like we're an experiment, Jake said. Yes, Grandpa said, and that's exactly how humans can win. They don't know what we're capable of yet. Jake adjusted the controls, sending signals through the communication device. Simple patterns, colors, and symbols danced in space. The aliens responded with their own patterns, complex, geometric shapes, blinking and rotating. It was communication. Not words, but understanding. The hours passed as Jake maneuvered the ship closer to the flagship. Human scientists on Earth monitored every move, translating the alien signals into images and numbers. Humanity was learning quickly, adapting in real time. Jake felt the weight of the world or perhaps the galaxy on his shoulders, but he also felt a thrill. Suddenly, an alien scout ship detached from the flagship and approached Jake's craft. It moved carefully, analyzing, scanning, and finally slowing near the human ship. Jake's hands shook as he initiated a sequence Grandpa had taught him. Lights flashed across the human ship, patterns forming a simple message. We come in peace. We mean no harm. The alien ship paused. Sensors scanned again. Lights blinked. And then, it sent back a new sequence. The shapes were different now. More organized. Almost approving. Jake realized they were testing him, testing humanity's intentions. Grandpa's voice came through again. Jake, you're doing it. They're responding. Keep showing them humans are clever, adaptable, and cautious. That's what will save us. Jake nodded. He adjusted the controls, creating small, clever maneuvers that seemed almost playful. The aliens mirrored some movements, hesitated at others, and slowly, a cautious dance began. On Earth, the news had shifted. Fear was still present, but fascination grew. People watched as humans and aliens interacted in real time. Not with destruction, but with intelligence and creativity. For the first time, humanity showed that it could stand on equal footing not through weapons, but through ingenuity. Hours later, Jake and Grandpa managed to transmit a larger pattern, one that represented Earth's location, its resources, and its willingness to cooperate. The aliens analyzed it, calculated, and finally, they paused. Then, a single beam of light extended from the flagship toward the human vessel, not a weapon, but a gesture. Jake's heart leapt. He realized that the aliens were acknowledging humanity, not as a threat, not as prey, but as a species capable of thought, strategy, and creativity. Grandpa grinned. See? That's what I meant. Humans survive because we can think, adapt, and solve problems others can't. You just proved it, Jake laughed, a mixture of relief and disbelief. All from pressing the wrong button? Foreman, Grandpa shook his head. Sometimes, mistakes lead to opportunities. But don't ever press that button again. As the alien ships slowly withdrew, keeping an eye on Earth but no longer aggressive, Jake felt a surge of pride. Humanity had not only survived its first contact, they had impressed a civilization far older and stronger than themselves. Jake looked out at the stars, thinking about all the possibilities. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown threats and unknown friends. But one thing was certain: humans had something no one else did: creativity, ingenuity, courage, and now the universe had noticed. Grandpa patted his shoulder. Tomorrow, we begin preparing for what comes next. But tonight, we celebrate. Humanity has taken its first step into the stars. And we did it the human way. Jake smiled, realizing that the wrong button had not only started a potential war, but had also shown humanity's greatest strength: the ability to rise, think, and act when no one expected it. Outside, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon. The alien ships were still out there, distant shapes in the sky. But for now, Earth was safe. And Jake knew that whatever challenges awaited, humans were ready. The button sat quietly in the garage, harmless and red. Jake knew he would never touch it again, but he also knew that it had opened a door, one that humanity was now prepared to walk through, together, into the unknown. The galaxy had noticed Earth. That simple truth weighed heavily on Jake as he stared out from the cockpit of the prototype ship. The alien fleet, larger now, hovered on the edge of the solar system. Massive, silent, and unyielding. Their numbers were terrifying, but Jake remembered Grandpa's words. Humans survived because they adapted, because they used their minds, not brute force. Grandpa, Jake said, gripping the controls. They're closing in. What do we do if they attack? Grandpa's eyes sparkled with determination. Then we think faster. We don't fight with guns. We fight with brains. Remember the sequences we practiced? The patterns? The puzzles? That's our weapon. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Jake nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The prototype ship, small and fragile compared to the alien warships, was humanity's last hope, not for destruction, but for survival. A pulse of alien energy shot across space. The ship's sensors blinked red, but nothing exploded. It was a test. The aliens were probing, trying to understand how humans would respond. Jake steadied his breathing. He activated the communication device, sending a complex sequence of lights and signals. This time, it wasn't just greetings, it was a demonstration. Mathematics, music, patterns, and geometry. Humanity in all its ingenuity. The aliens responded instantly, beams of light twisting and turning in impossible angles. It was not hostility, it was curiosity. Jake realized they were testing intelligence, trying to measure human potential. Grandpa leaned over the console. Jake, this is it. Show them who humans are. Make them see that we're not just weak creatures on a small planet. We can think, improvise, survive. Jake nodded. He adjusted the ship's shields to reflect the alien pulses back. But in patterns the aliens had not seen before, shapes that moved, twisted, and even danced across space. It was a display of strategy and creativity. On Earth, humanity watched with bated breath. Scientists, military officers, and ordinary citizens followed every movement, every signal, and every beam of light. For the first time, humans were not merely reacting, they were leading. They were showing the galaxy their strength in a language only intelligence could speak. Suddenly, one of the alien warships shifted formation, moving directly toward Jake's ship. Panic flared for a moment. This was far too close, but then the ship slowed. Its sensors scanned the human vessel, then paused. Then another ship joined it, and another. It was a test of patience, endurance, and cleverness. Jake thought quickly. He activated a sequence he had designed with Grandpa. Small, clever maneuvers that mimicked natural movements like a flock of birds. Unpredictable yet coordinated, the aliens reacted, matching, adjusting, probing, but never attacking. It was a dance, a dialogue, a battle of minds. Hours passed. Jake, exhausted but focused, kept sending new sequences, new patterns, new creative solutions to the alien probes. Grandpa guided him, suggesting tiny adjustments, corrections, and enhancements. Slowly, the alien fleet began to respond differently, less cautiously, more interested. Then, the first beam of light came, a direct, controlled pulse from the flagship. Not aimed at destruction, but at recognition. It was the aliens' way of acknowledging understanding. Jake smiled. Humanity was being accepted, not as prey, but as a species capable of thought, creativity, and strategy. Grandpa's voice trembled with pride. Jake, look at that. They're learning from us. They're respecting us. Jake's heart soared. All the fear, all the panic, all the mistakes it had led to this. Humans had survived not by firepower, but by ingenuity. By thinking. By showing that even a small species on a blue planet could face the galaxy and stand tall. But the moment of triumph was not yet complete. A larger warship broke formation, moving aggressively. Jake's pulse quickened. The fleet had not yet fully accepted them. Grandpa spoke calmly. Remember, Jake, calm and cleverness. Do not panic. Show them intelligence, not fear. Jake adjusted the ship again, creating a series of reflective shields that made it appear as if the human vessel had multiplied, moving in several directions at once. The alien ship hesitated, scanning the phantom images, calculating, unsure which target was real. Jake smiled. It was working. Humanity's creativity, unpredictability, and quick thinking had turned a fragile ship into a formidable symbol. The aliens were forced to acknowledge human cunning. A pulse of light shot toward Earth. It was not a weapon, it was a message. A sequence that humans quickly translated. We recognize your ingenuity. You may stay. You may grow. You are noted. Jake felt a rush of relief. They had survived. More than that, they had earned recognition. Humanity had taken its first true place among the stars. Grandpa clapped him on the shoulder. You did it, Jake. You showed them what humans are capable of. Not through strength, but through brains, courage, and cleverness. Jake laughed, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. All from pressing the wrong button in your garage? Grandpa shook his head, smiling. Sometimes, the wrong button opens the right door. And sometimes, A mistake becomes the first step toward greatness. As the alien fleet slowly departed, maintaining a careful watch on Earth, Jake realized something remarkable. Humanity had survived its first contact. They had faced a civilization far older, stronger, and more advanced, and they had not only survived, they had impressed them. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted. People cheered in the streets, news anchors smiled with relief, and scientists marveled at humanity's clever solutions. Jake's small town was the center of a new era. Grandpa patted the red button in the garage. That little thing almost started a war, but it also reminded us of what humans can do. Ingenuity, courage, adaptability, that's our true strength. Jake nodded. He looked out the garage window at the stars, thinking about all the possibilities ahead. The galaxy was vast, full of unknowns. But humans were ready. Not just ready to survive, but ready to explore, learn, and thrive. For the first time, Jake understood what Grandpa had always meant. Humanity was more than a species. Humanity was a force of creativity and resilience. And now, the universe had noticed. The wrong button had caused chaos, fear, and uncertainty. But it had also revealed the greatest truth about humans. They never give up, they never stop thinking, and they never stop reaching for the stars. Jake smiled, realizing that this was just the beginning. Humanity's journey had only started. The galaxy was wide, full of challenges and wonders, and humans were ready not because they were the strongest, but because they were the smartest, the cleverest, and the most determined species in the stars. Grandpa leaned on the doorway. Tomorrow, we start preparing for the future. For now, rest. Humans have done something remarkable today. Something the galaxy will remember. Jake nodded, finally letting himself relax. The stars twinkled above, and he knew that no matter what came next, humans would face it together with courage, creativity, and hearts full of determination. And somewhere in the distance, the alien fleet observed quietly, respecting the species they had once underestimated. Earth had survived, humanity had risen, and the galaxy had finally understood humans were not to be ignored.